amazing human beings coming together for one sole purpose to talk about the power of surrender, the power that can happen in your life when you actually step out and let God step in.
Hello, I am JR Holguin. Really, my first name is Candelario Holguin, but I am a junior. So as I've gotten older, people just say JR as opposed to junior, but my family still calls me junior. And I am tuning in from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I am honored to be here. Thank you, Elena, for inviting me and all of us here. This is awesome.
Absolutely. It is such an honor to have you and the amazing connection that we have established right from the beginning. You're one of the kings in the very first Kings edition of Surrender to Rise, and you will be with us in May when we are in Dallas, Texas. But you didn't get here easily or by accident. When I learned of your story and being locked up and um what was give people some background as to where you were and what that moment was that flipped your mindset to bring you to where you are today. Tell us a little bit about where you were.
Okay, so when I was a senior in high school, I was actually incarcerated and sentenced to a total of 135 years in prison. And I ended up doing 23 years in here in Texas. And I got out in 2021. And but while I was in prison, it I the for the first 7, 8 years, it was more of a victim stance mentality where I felt like I was the victim. I got too much time for my crime, and I wasn't in there for murder. I wasn't in there for such a heinous crime. So I was like, I would see people in there with less time than me, and so I definitely carried that victim stance mentality until about 7 or 8 years into my incarceration, when my wife asked me a question, and I mentioned that in the chat. My chapter was like, what are you doing with your time? What do you do with your time in there? And it was innocent on her part. Say, what are you doing with your time in there? Like, nothing. I'm doing my time. I mean, what can I do with my time in here? But that question really triggered something in me, and really made me do some introspection. What am I doing with my time? And and so, anyways, after that pivotal question, I just really just started self-reflecting, and like I need to do something. I keep going to visitation, telling my family I'm not the same teenager that I was when I was incarcerated. But where's the tangible evidence? There was none. I just got my GED because again, I was incarcerated when I was in high school. So I got my GED in the county jail, and I realized I needed to do something. I decided to go to college, and then I just went on my collegiate career, got my associates, my bachelor's in business, and my from A&M University, and from the University of Houston, I got my master's degree, all while I was in prison. And just really, that was a transformation for me. It was such a blessing because sometimes I don't know about others, but for me, it was more of the culture. It's like, hey, just get your high school diploma, mijo. Just get your high school diploma, and then after that, you do what you want to do. So I really wasn't thinking beyond the high school diploma. So whenever I decided to go to college, I was a little bit of hesitant because I more of a imposter or fear or not really believing in myself, really believing that I could do it. But once I went to college and I saw other students doing it, and the competitive nature of myself came out like, hey, if they can do it, I can definitely do it. And so I just went on, and I just didn't stop. I got my associates and I was happy about it, but I was still hungry. And got my bachelor's, I was same thing. I was still hungry. Got my master's, still hungry. so so
I love
just
it. It's like, so what's like, it'll always be like, what's next? What's next? For you. And I love
Yeah.
that. Would you say that that question that your wife asked, because what an amazing, simple question. What are you doing with your time? Right?
Mhm.
Was that like a brick to the head that made you like wake up and be like, now what? Like, had you never really considered what the future was going to hold for you? Like, was that question, do you feel like she was your little earth angel in that moment or God's voice in that moment?
Oh, definitely. I actually do call her my earth angel. It's because my mom would always give me good counsel. She would always give me good advice. But, being hard headed, don't really listen to mom that much. I love her, respect her, but it's sometimes you have to hear from somebody else. And then when my wife and I got married by proxy in my 8th year of prison, when she started coming to visit me and she asked me that question, yeah, that was definitely like a brick to the head or a water to the face. It was a wake up moment. Hey, you got this beautiful girl right here, chose to marry you. She obviously sees something inside of you that maybe I didn't even see in myself at the time. And it's like, so, okay, let me bring that side of me out. And it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey. And she definitely has helped me just with that question right there alone. And we're just so blessed because of it.
And so today, like I know I see you, I've seen a video of you where you actually like you were sitting in the parking lot of where you were, was that prison? Were you in the parking lot from there? Do you remember a video
The
when you're
video
like,
where I was released, I think
yeah,
where she ran to me, yeah, that was me getting out of my first moments of freedom whenever she ran and then I just hugged her. Yeah,
wow,
that was
wow.
beautiful.
So what could you share with somebody that is still in that victim mentality, and how do they start using time to work for them?
Um, Accountability is big.
Mhm,
Being the victim mentality, I mean, all of us can choose to be a victim or a victor.
Oh, I like that.
And it's just that's just the way it is. So our decision, our perspective matters. So the perspective that I had of the world mattered because I was in prison and I didn't think I could do anything with my time, right? Because that was my perspective. And until I left that perspective, even though I did not leave prison, I left that perspective. My perspective shifted. And then I was able to do so much with my time. So whenever in prison, we often think like, when we're in prison, we think that we're like in poverty of some sorts. So we lack things that the free world doesn't lack. We don't have enough money to go to the store, or we don't have the options to go to the store and pick what we want to pick. And there's just too much noise, too much chaos. How can I possibly concentrate in a place like this? I mean, there's every excuse in the book,
Mhm.
right? So what I have right here, I mean, I would get toilet paper and put it in my ears and just try to block out the noise. And then I would get my headphones and put on some good music for me that was encouraging, and I would put it over that, and then that would block out the noise, and I would zoom into my studies. And I mean, you can do anything you want to do is just by shifting your perspective. And that's why whenever I started one of my businesses called Success Mind Shift, because mindset is one thing, but it's set. But days change, moments change. So your mind should shift with those days and those moments. It should never be set to, in my opinion, it should continue to shift.
Mhm.
And so when my mind shifted, like I can do something with my time. I can still be a big brother. I can still be a good husband, a good son, even from in prison. I can still set that example, even from in prison. And then so when I did that, I was able to do so much. And I realized I was so wealthy. I had so much
Wow.
time. I had so much wealth with time. And when you come out here in the world, I realize that I am not as wealthy with my time. But when I was in there, I used my wealth, which was time, to do so much with it. And my perspective, my mind shift. So anybody that's dealing with, I mean, you can just shift your mind and just really accomplish anything you want to accomplish.
I love that. Wow. Absolutely love that. What would you share with the young man? Okay. And actually I want to go to maybe the young man that is locked up. How do you convince somebody? Can you convince somebody, or can you only share from your own example and they pick up what they want from it? Can you convince somebody to use their time differently, do you think?
Well, I've had the honor to go back to the prison since I've been released to just minister and just to help guys also in there. And from my experiences, somebody may drop a seed, right? And somebody else might come behind that person, drop another seed, and somebody else might come and just drop a little bit of water on that seed. and somebody else might come a little fertilizer on that seed, and it'll just continue to grow. So we may not be able to just change a person's mind in one sitting in a conversation, but we can contribute to that person changing their mind by one sitting in a conversation, because God, puts people in our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So we might just be in there for a reason or a season. And so I don't think that we can necessarily change a person's mind just instantly, but by sharing our testimony and the power of our testimony, right? It's just that will encourage them and show them that, hey, if we can come out of this, like your testimony, if you can come out of that and be successful, if I can come out of being in prison since high school and come out and be successful, then you can too. And I've also hosted youth events since I've been out here in the Metroplex area. And that's what I tell them. I use my personal experiences and I just try to just tell them about accountability, about their personalities, and just try to encourage them through the power of my testimony because I truly believe, Elena, that what I've gone through or what you've gone through or what everybody else in here has gone through may not even be for us. It may be for somebody else. And the reason we gone through it is because God knew we were strong enough to carry that. And therefore, we need to help somebody else that may not be as strong. And if we stay silent, then we're doing whatever we've gone through and injustice even more. And I mean,
Yes.
that
That's
that's just my
gold right
power.
there. Like I gotta like cheer that one because that I totally feel you on that one. For whatever reason, God chose you to go through that experience because he already knew that you were going to develop that discipline to come through and share and impact lives. And what a beautiful thing to say. And you got some people here saying yes. Julie says yes, that's so true. Esther says love that. Amen. So, oh my
Man,
gosh, that was gold right there, mister.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. And so, as we come up to the final minutes of our time with you this morning, number one, I want to thank you for being with us. But you are the first a king in the one of the first editions of Surrender to Rise. What is your goal for the readers when they read your chapter?
Well, it's funny because I struggled with that, right? It's like, yeah, I can have a feel good story. Everybody likes to hear a feel good story, but how can I use my story and how can somebody apply something from my story into their life? And so my goal is that to not only be inspired and motivated, but also be encouraged and also use some of the tools that I use, some of the mental tools that I use to be successful, to just get up and just get moving one step at a time. And that my goal is that they will be able to shift their mind and not only just shift their mind, but also have some type of direction of how to do it. And so my chapter, I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but it is sprinkled with my story, but it's also sprinkled with the shifting of the mind and the time. I came up with an acronym with the time: transform, invest, maximize, and embrace. And that's you use that acronym, and you can really help yourself shift your mind into a direction that can be a productive direction, a successful direction. And success may not be monetary value. Success could be just contributing to those around you. It could be anything.
I
It's
love
just
that. And
perspective.
I do feel, I value time. I feel like time is the most valuable. It's the one thing you can't replace. It's the one thing you don't get back. You can't rebuild it. You can't get more of it. Like my husband always says, like God gives us when we're born with our hourglass. And only God knows when the sand's going to run out. So to be able to train your mind to look at time as the precious commodity that it is, and if we all respected and honored that in each other, wow, right? Like
Yeah.
wow. So um I haven't read your updates to your chapter, but it was amazing. I learned so much. And so what's next for you?
Well, I'm actually currently working on a book myself that I actually went through the Maxwell Publishing Company that I'm hoping to have that published before the next Maxwell conference in August. But I currently run my web design and digital marketing company, 360 Web Core, helping local small businesses just have with the online presence and with the Success Mind Shift. And here recently, my wife and I partnered up and we opened up a roofing and renovations company called Elevate and Renovate LLC here in the Dallas Fort Worth area. So even though we're so limited with our time, that's why I put a multipreneur, because I know some people is like, hey, just focus on one thing, one niche, and that's it. And that's great for some, but for some that just keeps rolling, it may not be so great because you, like I said, I'm always wanting more, right? So it's just creating other avenues. But I'm so blessed to have surround support like with my wife, and we have good employees, and we're making good connections, partnerships matter not only in life like accountability purposes, but even in business, right? If you have the good business partners around you, then you can continue to grow in that area as well. So for next for me, it's just we have our 2-year-old daughter that keeps us super busy as well. So blessed, and work business and just contributing. We're actually going to a marriage seminar at the Win Unit in Huntsville this month on the 20th, 22nd. So we also do the prison ministry. So we're just contributing. It's funny because my web design is about building people's online presence. The roofing and renovations about building up houses and stuff. And the success mindset building up persons by their individual person. So coincidentally, I thought about that this morning, like, wow, everything is about building up.
And it's amazing that you say that real quick, because I'm the same, where it's like I go from lipstick to surrender to rise, right? And it's like people wonder like it doesn't even connect or make sense, but ultimately it's building confidence. And when God said, remember who you are and boldly step forward, show your crown, well, lipstick to me is a way to help women do that. But then here we are talking about God's power. So it's amazing at the different things that you're capable of doing through the simple purpose that God gives you. And it can
Amen.
look different for everyone.
Amen. Thank you, Elena.
Amen. So thank you so much for sharing with us this morning. It was great to see you, and many comments that came through for you in here. So again, thank you for sharing, and we'll talk with you soon.
Amen. See y'all.